So now we'll solve some radical equations that have radicals on each side and a constant term not under a radical. So in order to do this, we're actually going to want to make it one radical per side. So I'm going to take this negative one and move it over here. It's going to be much nicer if it's only one radical per side. So we have the square root of 6x plus 12 equals 1 plus the square root of 4x plus 9. Okay, now we will square both sides. So I'll square this side and this side. When I square this left side, the squared and the square root cancel. So I have 6x plus 12 equals. When I square this side, that's really the same as 1 plus the square root of 4x plus 9 times 1 plus the square root of 4x plus 9. Okay, so I can distribute the 1 and then distribute the radical, or we can remember that anytime you have a binomial squared, you get the first term squared plus double the product of the two terms plus the second term squared. So here the first term squared is 1, so a squared is 1. Double the product of a and b. So the product of a and b is 1 times the radical. Double that is 2 times the radical. Plus b squared. And now I square this radical and get 4x plus 9. Now I want to get this radical term by itself. Okay, since I'm still stuck with a radical term, I want that all by itself, so I'm going to move everything else over. So I have 6x minus 4x, that's 2x. 12 minus 1 is 11, minus 9 is 2, equals 2 times the square root of 4x plus 9. Now the easiest thing to do here would be to divide everything by 2 and make this a 1. So I would have x plus 1 equals the square root of 4x plus 9. Sometimes we forget to do that though. I'm going to do this as though I just forgot that I can just divide by this. But if you can remember, if all the terms are divisible by this number, go ahead and divide by this number and you'll get some nicer numbers all around. Okay, but we're just going to say I forgot to do that. So I'll square both sides again. So I have a squared is 4x squared. 2 times a times b. So a times b, 2x times 2 is 4x. Okay, double that and I get 8x. So 2ab is 8x. And then b squared is 4. Okay, now this is a single term because there's not a plus or a minus right here. Okay, so I don't have to do the a plus b squared thing because it is a single term with multiplication right here. So I can just square both parts and I get 4 times 4x plus 9. Okay, and here's a chance again where I could divide everything by 4 and I would have 4x plus 9 equals x squared plus 2x plus 1. Okay, but again, we'll just pretend I forgot that. We'll just keep on going as though that's not even an option in my mind right now. So I'll distribute this and I get 4x squared plus 8x plus 4 equals 16x plus 36. Okay, now let's get everything on one side. Okay, so I'll move this and this to the other side. So I've got 4x squared, and then 8x minus 16x is negative 8x. And then 4 minus 36 is negative 32. All that equals 0. Okay? Now I'm in a position where I can factor, but if I'm going to factor, my first step has to be look for a GCF. Now if I would have divided by 2 way back here, I might not be in this predicament, but here I've got a GCF I have to factor out. So I'm going to factor out a 4 out of all 3 terms. And I'll get x squared minus 2x minus 8 equals 0. Okay, now I want to factor this trinomial if I can. So if I can find numbers that multiply to -8 and add up to -2, then I'll be able to factor this. Looks like -4 and 2 will work. -4 times 2 is -8. -4 plus 2 is -2. So my factored form is 4 times x minus 4 times x plus 2 equals 0. Okay, now any value of x that makes any of these factors a 0 is a solution. There's no value of x that's going to take that 4 and make it a 0. But a 4 here minus 4 would give me a factor of 0. So x equals 4 is a solution. And a -2 here plus 2 would give me a factor of 0. So my roots here are 4 and -2. Okay? Now, before I can put a box around them, I have to check to see if either one is an extraneous solution. So I have 6 times 4 plus 12 under a radical, minus 4 times 4 plus 9 under a radical equals 1. Okay, so let's see what we've got here. 6 times 4 plus 12 is 36, and the square root of 36 is 6. 4 times 4 plus 9 is 25, and the square root of 25 is 5. 6 minus 5 equals 1. Check. I agree with that. 4 is a valid solution. Now let's try the -2. 6 times -2 plus 12, square root, minus 4 times -2 plus 9, square root equals 1. Okay, so I have 6 times -2 plus 12, and that is 0, and the square root of 0 is 0. 4 times -2 plus 9 is 1, and the square root of 1 is 1. 0 minus 1 equals 1. That is not true, so this solution here is an extraneous solution, so x equals 4 is the only valid solution. Okay, next up, I want to once again move the negative radical over. If they're both positive, I can just pick either one. But in this case, I've got a negative radical. It's just nicer to deal with positive signs. So I have the square root of x minus 3 equals -11 plus 3 times the square root of x plus 12. Okay, so I'll square both sides. Okay, so I have x minus 3 equals, then a squared is 121. Okay, then I have double the product. So I've got -11 times 3, that's -33. Double that, and I have -66 times the radical. Okay, and then plus, and then I square this term right here, and I get 9 times x plus 12. Okay, so my next move is to get the radical term by itself. And since it's negative, I'm going to move it that way and move these the other way. And so I'll have 66 times the radical equals, okay, then I have 121 plus 9x plus, and then 9 times 12 is 108. Then I also have minus x and plus 3. So that's 66 times the radical equals, so then I have 121 plus 108 plus 3. And that's 232. Okay, and then I have 9x minus x is 8x. Now it would be nice if I could simplify these numbers a bit, and I'm going to see if 8 goes into everything here. So 66 divided by 8, nope, so I can't divide by 8. How about 4? 66 divided by 4, nope. How about just 2? 66 divided by 2 is 33, so I've got 33 times square root of x plus 12. 232 divided by 2 is 116, and then 8 divided by 2 is 4, so I've got 4x. So I was able to make my numbers a little bit simpler by dividing everything by 2. Okay, now let's square both sides again. Okay, so when I square this side, I don't have a plus or minus here, it's times, so I can just square both parts. 33 squared is 1089 times x plus 12. Okay, then I've got a squared plus 2ab plus b squared, 116 squared. Okay, and then 2 times a times b, so that's 2 times 116 times 4 is 928x. And then plus 16x squared. So now I'll distribute here, and I get 1089x plus 1089 times 12. Okay, now I'll get everything on one side, so I'll move these to the right, and I'll get 0 equals, and then let's put this in the correct order. 16x squared, then I have 928x minus 1089x, negative 161x. Okay, then I have 13,456 minus 13,068. So we'll see if we can make these numbers any easier by factoring out a GCF. So the numbers that go into 16, other than 1, are 2, 4, 8, and 16. And those are all even numbers. None of those are going to go into 161. So we are not going to be able to factor out any greatest common factor. So we will choose between factoring, completing the square, or using the quadratic formula. Okay, so let's use the quadratic formula. So I have x equals the opposite of b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c, all over 2 times a. Okay, so let's evaluate what's under that radical. So we've got negative 161 squared, that's the same as 161 squared, minus 4 times 16 times 388. So we've got 161 plus or minus the square root of 1089, all over 32. Okay, now let's see if we're lucky and that is going to be a square number. So second square root, second answer. So I'm pulling in that 1089 and I get 33. So it's 161 plus or minus 33 all over 32. So 161 plus 33 divided by 2 is 97. So we get x equals 97. Okay, and then 161 minus 33 divided by 32 is 4. So 97 and 4 are the two solutions. And I see I actually made a little mistake here. I divided by 2 and not by 32, so I need to do that plus again. So 161 plus 33 divided by 32 is a decimal, so I'll hit that math key and then enter, enter, and it's actually 97/16 that is that solution. So we get 97/16 and 4. Now we need to plug those in, and I'm not going to write it all out. I'll just do it in my calculator. So 97/16 first, so we've got the square root, and let's see if it'll let me do a fraction under the square root. So math number all the way to the bottom of the list, and it will, so we'll put 97 over 16 minus 3 times the square root of 97 sixteenths plus 12, and we'll see, oh, I need plus there, plus 12, and we'll see if that equals negative 11, and it does. Okay, now with a 4, so the square root of 4 minus 3 times the square root of 4 plus 12, and that is also negative 11. So both solutions checked out, so we get to keep both. All right, number 7. It's already a radical on just one side, so I can just square both sides, and I get 5 squared is 25. Double the product, so I get 5 times 2x is 10x, double that is 20x. And then the second term squared is 4x squared equals x squared minus 2x plus 1. Okay, so let's get everything to one side. Let's go to the left here, so we have a positive x squared term. 4x squared minus x squared is 3x squared. Okay, then we have 20x plus 2x is 22x. And 25 minus 1 is 24 equals 0. Okay, so I have the choice to factor, complete the square, or use the quadratic formula. Let's try to factor this one. We'll try that first. 3 times 24, since I have a lead coefficient that's not 1. So let's see, 3 times 24 is 72. So what I need to multiply to is 72, and I need these same two numbers to add up to 22. Okay, so two numbers that multiply to 72 and add up to 22. How about 18 and 4? Okay, so let's see, 18 times 4 is 72, 18 plus 4 is 22. So 18 and 4 are my two numbers. So I'm going to split this 22 into an 18 plus 4. 3x squared plus 18x plus 4x. So I just split 22x into 18x plus 4x. Plus 24 equals 0. And I'll factor the greatest common factor out of this group, and it looks like that's going to be 3x. Okay, so 3x squared divided by 3x is x. 18x divided by 3x is 6. And from this group, this number is positive, so I will factor out a positive 4. 4x divided by 4 is x. 24 divided by 4 is 6. Okay, so I have 3x plus 4 times x plus 6 equals 0. So there's my factored form. So now I can set each factor equal to 0 to get my two solutions. 3x plus 4 equals 0, so 3x is negative 4. So x is negative 4/3. And then from this one, it's going to be x is negative 6. So those are my two solutions. And now I need to check them. Okay, so I have 5 plus 2 times negative 4/3. Okay, and then I have the square root of negative 4/3 squared minus 2 times negative 4/3 plus 1. And those come out the same. Okay, so I know that negative 4/3 is a valid solution. Now negative 6. 5 plus 2 times negative 6 is negative 7. And then, well, a square root can never equal a negative number. So if this side is going to be negative 7, a square root cannot possibly equal that. So I know I'm going to have to throw that number out. So only negative 4/3 will be a valid solution. Okay, one more practice. So let's square both sides. Okay, a squared is 9. Okay, then minus 2ab, so that's minus 3 times the radical, but double that and I get minus 6 times the radical. Okay, and then b squared is plus r plus 1. And then on this side, the square root and the squared cancel, so I get 4 minus r. Okay, so now let's get that radical term by itself. Okay, so I'll have negative 6 times the square root of r plus 1 equals, then I have negative r minus r, so that's negative 2r, and then I have 4 minus 9 minus 1, so that's 4 minus 10. Okay, so 4 minus 10 is negative 6. Okay, now let's simplify our numbers. We're going to divide every term by negative 2. So I'll get 3 times the radical equals r plus 3. Okay, now let's square both sides again. So we get 9 times r plus 1 equals r squared plus 6r plus 9. Okay, so I'll distribute 9r plus 9 equals r squared plus 6r plus 9. And then I'll move everything to the right. So I have 0 equals r squared, and then 6r minus 9r is negative 3r, and then 9 minus 9 cancels, so we just have r squared minus 3r. So I'm going to factor out the greatest common factor of these two terms, which is r. Okay, divide this by r and I get r, divide this by r and I get negative 3. Okay, so what value of r makes this factor a 0? 0 does. And what value of r makes this factor a 0? 3 does. So 0 and 3 are my two solutions. Okay, now I need to check. So I've got 3 minus the square root of 0 plus 1 equals 4 minus 0 square root. Okay, so that's 3 minus 1 equals the square root of 4, which is 2. Okay, 3 minus 1 is 2. Check. 0 worked. Okay, so then how about 3 minus the square root of 3 plus 1 equals the square root of 4 minus 3. Okay, so I've got 3 minus 3 plus 1 is 4, square root is 2. And then 4 minus 3 is 1, square root is 1. 3 minus 2 is 1. Check, that also worked. So my two solutions, 0 and 3, are both valid solutions.